Have you ever noticed there's some situations that barely bother you? Like plans change or people make mistakes and things can go sideways, but somehow it's cool. You adapt, you make it work, and yeah, then you can move on. And then there are those other moments. There's a conversation, maybe you're with a family member, or you hear a news story, or your coworker does something, or some decision that affects something you care deeply about takes place. And then you have that experience of that, like it just starts to build the frustration, the tension. Maybe it's even like super fast that there's heat or anger. You know what I'm talking about? And what's interesting is that the size of the reaction isn't always explained by the size of the event that just took place. Like sometimes something relatively small can trigger this enormous experience of anger. And sometimes something much larger barely affects us at all. I've spent a lot of time, years really, thinking about that, working with people around it, and especially because I grew up in a way that anger was really one of the only emotions I knew. And I've come to believe that most people don't actually have an anger problem. I think we have a relationship with anger that we don't fully understand. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Hi, I'm Leeza Steindorf. I'm an international leadership coach and human development specialist. And for more than 20 years, I've helped people across cultures understand themselves more clearly, navigate difficult emotions, strengthen relationships, and really create lives and their work that feels aligned with who they are. And one of the things I've noticed is that we are taught some very strange things about anger. We're taught, and we see it in the culture too, right? It's a collective belief that anger is power. We're taught that angry people are strong people and that the loudest voice is the strongest voice. And sometimes it's not said that way, but it just kind of permeates everything, all conversations. And that if someone remains calm, they must be weak or not have strong convictions, right? If someone's not angry, they don't really care, right? We've made these associations. But has that actually been your experience if you think about it, right? If you think about people who have had the greatest positive impact in your life, were they the angriest people? Or were they rather maybe the clearest people, the most grounded, maybe the kindest, the people really capable of responding to situations without reacting to them? So that's what we're going to talk about here. And if you find this conversation helpful, useful, go ahead and consider subscribing because these conversations build on each other and you'll know when new clips come out. So I want to be clear that I am not suggesting anger is bad by any means. I'm certainly not suggesting that we should not care about things. There are plenty of things in our world deeply worth caring about. And there are injustices that deserve all of our attention and action, and people who are harmed and communities that are struggling and our environment is being damaged. And there are systems that create unnecessary suffering. So feeling concern about those things is part of being human. And sometimes outrage is totally understandable. But the question is, what happens next? Because there's a difference between caring deeply and becoming trapped in your own anger. Yeah, there's a difference between your conviction and being reactive. There's a difference between taking a stand and being consumed by the emotion itself. And that's where our relationship with anger becomes important, because anger is not the enemy. It's simply not a particularly effective place from which we can create change or take action. I mean, we can use it as a propeller, but it's not that effective. If you think about it, when you feel clear and capable and empowered to do something that you care about, do you need anger as the fuel? Probably not. When you know what there is for you to do, when you know how to respond, and you feel like you're able to influence a situation and you have some command over yourself or influence in the situation, right? Then anger tends to take a back seat because it's not really effective. But when we feel helpless, when we feel overwhelmed or stuck, and if something matters deeply, but we don't know how to create change around it or push it into the direction that we'd like it to go, that's usually where anger gets going. And it makes sense because anger can, like, it gives us this temporary feeling of power when we are not feeling powerful, right? We get really angry and then, "Arr!" And it can create the feeling of certainty when we're uncertain, right? We can dig into it and be convinced that there's certainty in there. And we can create a feeling of strength when underneath that anger, we may be feeling very vulnerable. So feeling powerful and being empowered are not the same thing. And that's a distinction that's really valuable. It's worth paying attention to. So more people that I've worked with, the less interested I've become in helping them to get rid of anger. It just doesn't make sense. But I have become really interested in helping them to understand their relationship with it. Because understanding that actually changes the conversation. So instead of asking, how do I stop being angry? We can instead ask the question, what feels out of control to you? Or what matters to you very much here? Or what are you wanting right now that you don't know how to create or how to take action on? There's something that the anger is pointing toward. What is that? And those are questions that tend to lead someone to a useful place. It gets them to a place where they can actually engage in a way that they want to, that's aligned with their values. And it's not because anger contains the answer, right? Because anger is often just points toward where understanding is needed, right? If you could think of anger as an indicator, yeah? So when your understanding grows, when you have better grasp of what's happening for you, what's important to you, then I'm going to say anger just becomes kind of a nuisance. It's not really useful because then you have your choice again. You can get clear. You have a sense of agency. And from that place, we can usually create far more change in a direction that we want to than we ever could have done with the anger. So the goal is not to eliminate anger, but it's also not to worship it. Yeah? You can see it for what it is. It's an indicator. And if there's a goal here, it's actually to develop a healthier relationship with anger. One where anger is allowed to be present, but it doesn't get to drive the show. Yeah? That's really the foundation of it. So where you can use anger to alert us that something matters, that there's something going on for us, but not allowing the anger to guide us. Yeah? We don't need the anger in order to find a solution. And anger is not the enemy. Neither the enemy nor the destination. So I can tell you from my own circumstances, I grew up in a family where anger was always on the front page. If something happened that didn't go well, whether it was in the house, outside of the house, anywhere, anger was the first response. So I learned that's how you do it. If it's something you don't want, if you don't know what to do, if you're confused, you get angry. And all that did was put a layer of emotion over an experience that I was trying to figure out. So it's more effective then if you can, instead of layering anger over on top of something, let it be an alarm bell. Let it be an indicator. Like, for example, a smoke alarm in your house, right? When it goes off, it gets your attention. Then you start looking and thinking, okay, so what do I need to do? You don't go and have a conversation with the smoke alarm. You look at what's it indicating. Is there a carbon monoxide? Are the windows closed and there's no airflow? Is there a fire? Is there heat? Is something wrong? Is it malfunctioning? So that's the same thing with anger. It can be seen and used as an indicator of what's really going on for you. And then you make your decisions from there. So you don't have to befriend it and you also don't have to reject it. You can simply see it for what it is, which is an indicator. And from that place, you can move forward. So in the next video, we're going to explore the 3 most common relationships that people develop with anger. And I'm going to say why most of us learned that pattern long before we knew we had one, like I was just speaking about, right? So if you found this conversation useful, go ahead and subscribe so you'll know when new conversations are released. And if someone came to mind while you were listening to this, like, oh yeah, boy, they could really use that, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure almost anybody could utilize the opportunity to check out what their relationship is with anger. Okay? So just know that this is not the end of the conversation. We're opening it up. It's where we're not making anger right or wrong, good or bad, but actually becoming curious about our relationship with anger, what it's been, and toward the end of the series, we're going to look at what actually would I like it to be. All right. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be well.